Hello and welcome to the third episode of My Art is My Voice podcast. I am Rebecca Danger.
And I am Tom Ferry.
So do you want to check in for the week?
Yeah, go ahead.
You want me to check in? So I had a ridiculous day yesterday with sewing. I decided, so we sat down and talked, my husband and I decided I want to start doing some tutorials on YouTube, but I have a pile of projects that I've gone back and forth. I'm going to finish them all right now. And then it's, no, just kidding. I'm only going to do one a week. And,
right.
But then I got them all piled up and ready to go. And so I've just been like finishing 2 quilts a day, which is ridiculous. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, yes, I'm on this. I'm going to do this yesterday too. And I started sewing. I put my new walking foot on. Literally this far in, the needle falls out of the sewing machine. I'm like, what? That doesn't happen. So I'm like, okay, I must have just not tightened it down. So I start again and it falls out again. And I'm like, okay, something is up. So it turned out the new walking foot has a guide that sits next to it. So you can do a line of quilting and then just quilt evenly spaced.
Repeat.
Right. Because I like just straight line quilting. And apparently when it was on the right hand side, it hit where the needle, the screw end for the needle goes. And so after a couple stitches hitting it, it just unscrewed it. So I figured it out and but like the whole project was like, I ended up picking out 3 whole lines of quilting and the fabric was sliding over and it was just one of those projects that was like, it was hard to get through it. It was like,
Right.
I just, wanted to be done and never look at it again.
Right. So would you consider that the ugly middle?
Yeah, I think that was definitely it looks great now. Mm-hmm. I was just putting the binding on it, but it's definitely that middle part of art that you have to just push through because it's really easy to give up. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Continuing to stay inspired, I find is my biggest problem.
Yeah.
And I think what's kind of cool is I've become very well aware that the larger the project is going to require a larger amount of inspiration.
Yep. Yeah, I've been tackling the baby quilts first, and then I have a couple of twin quilts, and I'm just kind of like, it's hard enough, forcing the quilt, the littler one through the sewing machine, and so I'm building my inspiration and confidence.
Yeah. And with painting, I think some of it's easier when I get to the middle. If I get to that stuck ugly part where it's either I can't see the final vision or the vision went away or something happened, what I like about painting is I generally just repaint.
Right. I was thinking about that because I was trying to figure out why these unfinished quilting projects are bothering me, whereas I have unfinished paintings and they're not bothering me. And I think it's the watercolor on paper, I can flip the paper over, or I could cut it up into collage, or it could become something else. But these quilts at this particular point, it would be hard for me to cut up into something else. So I think I don't know if it's the fabric value, because quilts are, sewing fabric's expensive versus even a piece of watercolor paper.
Right.
So I don't know. It's harder for me to stop mid-project with the fabric stuff, I think. So
yeah, I would say it's easy. It was easier for me in the past to get stuck and to put those projects aside until they stacked up. But what's interesting about the middle that it creates for me is if I don't push through it, I end up with shame and guilt.
That makes sense to me.
And then it's difficult because I feel shame because I didn't complete the piece, that it becomes difficult for me to start a new piece.
So how do you deal with that?
So I've either I push through the middles in those moments, or at some point it wasn't meant to be, or it's good enough. I think it's as simple as that. And I've gotten to where if it wasn't meant to be, I take the lessons learned from that project and move it into a different project and may even do a complete start over.
I do think anything, even if you end up not finishing it, there's some kind of skill or growth or something that's happened there. I think maybe for me, I have to get to the point where I can let it go or not. I definitely had these few that are basted, so that means they're sandwiched with the back fabric and the basting. And those are feeling more urgent to finish. Then I have one hanging on the wall that hasn't been sewn. The squares, what am I trying to say? Blocks haven't been sewn together yet. And I'm thinking once I get through the basted ones, I'm going to put that one aside. So it is interesting, like what I can let go and what I can't. So
Right.
Are you still working on the fountain? Is this?
Yep, the fountain is still in progress.
In a middle place?
I would say it's going to have multiple middles.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean the first middle was getting the armature built and wrapping my head around that everything's exterior of that. So there's dimensions that I have to be building smaller than what I actually want it to be, right?
Right.
So the armature is complete, and I'm very happy with that. So then the next step will be the plumbing for the hose, the line for the pump, and this and that. But I'm in a really happy place with it because the armature looks identical to what I want to do.
That's good.
So I'm cool, but I also know that once I start the concrete and the sculpting, that there will be another middle.
Yeah.
There just has to be.
So, I mean, again, like, do you just, it's easier to push through and like get through the middle on some projects than others?
Yeah, I think the usually what happens to me in the middle is either I don't like what I'm doing or I'm bored.
Okay.
That's usually the only reasons that I personally stop. So if I really don't like what I'm doing or I'm bored, like with a painting, it's fairly easy to do a massive disruption on a color.
Do like a wash over it or something?
Do a wash over it, or if I had a muted blue, maybe throw in a bright blue and see what it does. So just something to just change the perception. Sometimes there has been paintings I've struggled through the middle that I will turn upside down on my easel and come back to it the morning. That actually does reframe my perspective. There has been some that have been in the middle that when I took a picture on my phone, that reframes the perception in my mind and I go, oh, actually, it's really close. I only need this or that.
I do always feel like that stepping away and coming back is helpful, but I'm really bad about doing it.
Right.
And it was like getting those quilting finished last night. I came in and I had a whole pinched neck and I'm still feeling it today. And it was like, why did you push to the point of like hurting yourself? Why didn't you just stop? So I think, but then I know how important that stepping away is at the same time.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and it depends. If I'm in zone or in flow, I will push the zone or the flow as long as it can. I have had 18-hour painting sessions where if it wasn't for my wife, I would probably have not eaten. I think the trick to the flow state or being in the zone, doing any kind of art and any kind of creativity is it's all wonderful and great until we allow it to become a distraction for something we should be doing in life, something that's more required in life, whether it's taking the kids to school, whatever that may be, getting gas in the car before the trip, whatever. Because I do know that the moment it becomes a distraction, then I start shaming my guilty myself for being there and having fun. I seem to be really good at that. So
I am as well, and for me too, I interrupted a lot with kids at home, and so anytime I actually have an hour or two, it's like, oh, I'm just getting as much done as I can, because I might not have that again for a few days or weeks or months. So yeah, I think, and it is, I mean, I think that flow state is what most of us as creatives are looking for. I mean, at least in my experience, maybe not everyone, but
I think once you've been there, you want to go back there. I've had some amazing ones. I don't get them all the time. Right. It depends on the projects. It depends on my emotional tie into it, the vulnerability I'm in that moment, what's going on in my life right now. How clean is that plate? You know, how clean is my side of the street?
I've been thinking a lot about the like creating drama in your life to get projects, creative things done. And I think, you know, even looking yesterday, like my neck was hurting and my back was hurting, and it was like, no, I'm almost done. And it's almost even just in little simple steps within things too. It's almost like I don't know. It's an interesting. I hadn't really thought about that before. We talked about that a couple weeks ago, and now it seems to be coming up all the time. How about the needle falling out of the sewing machine? That was some drama right there.
No, I think artists are resilient for the most part. That's one of my favorite words, is resilient.
Yeah, I think, within our group of local community, even if they don't think they are, we see a lot of resilience within everyone.
Absolutely.
Everyone.
Right.
And, we do our monthly meeting and we get critiques and people just keep showing up.
Yep.
And so that's resilient. That's not taking something someone says that's an opinion and then not making art again,
Yeah, I think the key is you need to make it for yourself. Otherwise, those middles can be horrible.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking about that when you were talking about the fountain, because I know you really want that. Mm-hmm. And so I think sometimes that's easier to push through, right? If you really want the end.
Well, yes and no. So I think, so this is this is probably the 5th or 6th sculpture on the property. Some of them are very large, some of them are not so large. I started doing them specifically for myself because in the past, I would not have done that. I would not have done something just for me. That was not, I definitely in the past was very transactional. So if it was mine and it was for me, that there was no transaction for me to gain worth from, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of where it all started. And it started with this wonderful unicorn full of rocks. It's a gabion cage type scenario. Which was built in the middle of the pandemic. It was kind of a way for me to just refocus, reground. And because it was in the pandemic, that transaction couldn't have happened no matter what. So it was a wonderful growth experience for me to just be happy with what I had created and that I could, I was the one who was going to benefit from that.
Yeah.
I think that's different than what we normally do.
For sure. Yeah. The unicorn, that was when we were talking. I'm like, you like unicorns too?
Right, that's kind of how we got to met,
like my favorite. So it's interesting you're saying that, because one of those wall hangings I took to Black Swan a couple months ago, and I was like, this is going in my bathroom. Is now going. I was totally like, this is for me, and now it's going to the gallery. I'm like, whoopsie. So I just think it is, as a creative person, for me, it's so easy to make another one, and actually sometimes the finished items start to become a problem. And creating for me is so the process more than the finished product.
Absolutely.
It's really hard for me to make something for myself, and it's much easier if I have a reason or a direction, because I can just always make another one,
Right. Right. Yeah, and I think that's part of the creative process is I think I hate to use the word finding, but we are somewhat always trying to find ourselves or discover ourselves or create ourselves. And I think that's what we as artists do. And that's why I'm not a fan of labels or being defined as one kind of artist.
Yeah.
I want to play with it all. This is my experience here on this planet while it's here. And I'm going to do whatever I want as long as I can afford that.
Right. Yeah, I think it's so easy for me to have the shame and guilt of jumping from thing to thing. And I have done quite a few things. And we were talking to, I think you were there, one of my friends, one of our friends in the group. And I was like, well, I haven't done stained glass. And then it was like, oh, no, I have actually done some stained glass. But yeah, I just enjoy creating in all capacities. So I think and I'm seeing how much one thing feeds another. These quilts that were making me so crazy, they're hexagons. So I think I cut the hexagons out in 2015. And then I pieced them together in like 2021.
It's been a long middle.
And now it's been a long middle. No wonder they were so difficult. And so I'm finishing them now, and it's so interesting because I'm really into the little paper piece hexagons right now. And these are bigger, like 6-inch ones that I sewed on the machine. And then there's some of the same colors I was using in my paintings, and then it's a bunch of forest stuff like what I've been doing in my paintings, and it was so interesting to see that consistent voice
Right.
throughout when I feel like I'm jumping around from
Right.
thing to thing.
Yeah, I think
There's-
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was interesting this
Because
week.
I think very few artists can see their own consistent voice.
Yes, it's very difficult for me. So, yeah. Do you think artists as a whole, or at least who we know, like, do you think a lot of artists have a hard time, like, seeing something positive in their work? Or do you think a lot of artists, do you think they're really self-critical, or do you think some can be more, like, give themselves credit that they've done a good job? That's a weird question.
That
but
is a weird question.
I was just thinking, like, it's unusual for me to say something positive about my work, I think. Because I'm really self-critical.
Yeah. I think I've let some of that go. I think the more difficult thing that I had to move through was when somebody praised my work, was learning to just say thank you and not give them the but.
Yeah.
Right? Like, but the middle was a horrible thing and I had to repaint it
Right.
5 times.
Right.
So I think most artists are very emotional, vulnerable people. And I think whatever we experience during that creation process, we hold on to.
That's what I mean, I think for the most part, that's what I see too.
So rather than looking at all the problems and explaining all these issues we had to overcome that we struggled with, why not celebrate them? And for
Right.
myself, that celebration ended up just being thank you. I
Right.
appreciate that.
I've had to work really
And
hard at the
just
thank you too.
zip
Yeah.
the lip and let it go and see where it falls
Yeah.
next.
Yeah, I do feel like I get uncomfortable when praised from others and then also myself, but then that makes sense if that self-talk is not positive,
Right.
then hearing it from somebody else gets really uncomfortable, right?
Yeah, and I think that's important. If your self-talk isn't matching what you're hearing from the outside, there's probably a problem.
Both ways,
It
right?
could go both ways.
Right, that's funny. Yeah, I think
For sure.
yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I think we're all the same, and I think we're all drastically different. I think we all are trying. I think it's important for myself to just know what needs I'm trying to meet.
Well, so like we were talking about last week, like the different markets and if it's worth showing up for, and it really is each individual person's what works for them. Like we both have done lots of markets, and one vendor will show up and make $200
And be happy as a clam.
be happy as a clam, and then the next one shows up and makes $200 and is pissed off at everybody and their uncle because that's not worth showing up
Right.
for. So I think the more we can talk about these things for each individual, it helps everyone
Yeah,
feel
absolutely.
more comfortable. The more we can communicate. That's like for me, for a good show, whether it's a farmer's market or an art show or a music festival or whatever. I've done all of them. We say 10 to 1. So if you're for every dollar you spend doing the show, you expect $10. So if the show costs you $100, you expect to do $1,000 there. And I heard that from an artist years ago. At this point, I probably was 18 or 19 when I heard that, maybe a little bit older than that. And that's always been a good metric for me because that helps, inflation, show prices go up, but you're expecting to make more. So, and I've certainly had shows where I've done that or more. And then one of my farmers markets last year, I did $27, which was probably worse than zeroing.
Right.
So yeah, it's just, I think that's the same for artists with that success stuff we were talking about last week too, right? Like,
Yeah, and I think it's important to know where your art belongs. Where are you? I like for myself taking my 2 foot by 3 foot canvas paintings into a farmer's market would be there's no success going to happen there. I may sell one during the season.
Right, and for some artists that might be success.
Right, and that may be success. But that's not really the right location for that product.
It's a lot of hustle for
It's a lot of hustle
one
for
sale.
what I'm doing.
Yeah.
However, if I did greeting cards or if I did little cute prints of farm animals and that type of stuff, it's a wonderful venue for you, and you can build up that clientele base.
Right. That's, I think, where it's all it's all the choice.
Right,
And
it's all the choice.
You know, it's good to try things and then decide what works for you.
Right.
You know, instead of thinking it's a one size fits all.
Yeah, it is
kind of.
definitely not a one size fits all.
No. Yeah, I think you were saying recently, like, a lot of the artists we meet aren't necessarily traditional people that want traditional kind of job and career. So that's one of the wonderful things about it is you can do all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, all kinds of stuff. Even knife making is considered an art by some.
Right,
so.
right, which is the world you've
Right.
been in.
Yeah, I think craftsmanship, artisanship, all of that ends up weaved, webbed together. Textile arts, all of it.
Do you want to talk about that? That's one of my favorite things is that art, design, craft.
Yeah.
Like what makes something fine art versus craft versus design, and who decides?
Right. Who decides?
Yeah.
That is a big question.
That is a big question.
I do know there.
Go.
I do know in all arts there is a world in which all of those skills and techniques and traits and mastering each one of them and creativity do come together into these phenomenal projects. We've all seen that, and I believe most of us have experienced that for ourselves, whether we recognize it or not. Like, for me, like I was a hand engraver for 10 years too, and understanding how light reflections work through engraving is one thing that is extremely helpful for me in my painting.
I see that.
And it's extremely helpful in the sculptures. I can do little tiny indents to create shadows or little tiny bumps to create highlights. And most people don't even know that they're there, right?
Right.
But the eye sees them and the eye will make sense of it.
Right, right. But that's definitely like, for me, that is not that how light hits stuff. I remember being in art school and being like, yeah, boring, and wanting to move on, which most of my work then really doesn't go. I mean, I've played with shading and lights and highlights and all of it over the years, but I tend to choose things that aren't. And what I really love is color. I love how color interacts. And the thing that got me in art school was when we first were learning that if you have a red, if you put it next to this color, it looks different.
Change.
Or if you put, and that was like fascinating for me. So I think the interaction of how colors play off each other is really, and then like with black and white with it, and the contrast, I think that's really been kind of what I've focused on with it.
And that's a skill.
Right. It's I have purple on today, but I generally am in all black, which is ironic because I guess you can see this when I'm looking at another one here. They're all very, very colorful. What I sometimes feel like I need to subdue myself because my colors are so bright.
Right.
So, which I guess my outfit I do. So, yeah, I guess, the other thing about that is that's that voice, right? And that's what makes, because I think I would be terrible at hand engraving. It's a skill that I could learn.
Engraving, there are a few of our arts that you have to learn the basic skills.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think quilting's the same way.
True.
If you can't sew a straight line, at some point it's going to go sideways, right?
Yes, it is.
So engraving's the same way. If you can't pull a straight line, at some point it's going to go sideways. But those are the skills that I believe we have propped up into these talents that we're born with. I don't believe that.
I agree. I think
believe it takes time.
Creativity is about showing up and practicing.
Right. And if you have this creative, wonderful idea that you want to execute, you have to develop skills to get there.
Right. And I think it's, we always say that to the kids, like you have to show up to get good at things. But it's not even just in craft and art and design.
Right.
I have this video that we could probably put a link to that I'll send you at some point, and it's this little boy talking about what you practice is what you get good at. So if you're practicing anger, you're going to get good at anger. If you're practicing frustration, you're going to get good at frustration. And I love that because it's, then...
It's the truth.
Right.
It goes back to just saying thank you when somebody gives us a compliment.
Absolutely.
If you practice the but afterwards, you never accept the thank you.
Right.
You just can't. It just
Right.
doesn't work that way.
Right.
Our voice inside is way more powerful than the outside.
Yes. Well, and then I think, the other thing that we like to talk about is how it takes a lot more than just your skill set as an artist. You actually have to turn that into a style and a voice, and that's really what makes you stand out within art world, because it's easy to, and I think it's natural. Like, I remember drawing anime in high school, and that was like you'd learn those skills. But anytime you get a pencil and paintbrush or anything in your hand, you're just developing. Right? So I think it's natural to like draw Pokemon, but then hopefully you can find a voice within those skill sets and you're not just copying other
And I think
things.
it's about releasing the perfectionism, because I believe it's the little imperfect things that I do that create my style.
Absolutely. I'm embracing that right now. I'm sure it's Margaret, I think it's Kilgarren, and it's that my hand will always be imperfect, and that is where the beauty lies. And I tend to show up really refined in my work, and I'm really interested in the slow stitch movement. Have you heard about that? So it's a lot of like mending tattered things, and it's very uneven and crooked and kind of, I know artists that'll like, instead of hiding their knot in the piece, they'll let the knot show and like the threads. And I mean, I'm like, that is not at all what the whole thing is, but it's very not refined like I normally show up. And
And yet it probably comes across somewhat
it's
refined.
so beautiful.
Right.
And it's that hand, you can see the maker's hand in the work.
Right.
So,
And I think part of that is learning to understand for ourselves what's good enough and what's not.
yes.
And if it's not, then do it right.
Right.
But there are some stuff that I let slide quite a bit.
Right.
Like especially my initial coats of paint on the canvas. Those initial 5-6 coats, other than maybe getting the color I want or the hue I want, they're all irrelevant to me.
Because there's so much
There's so
over the
much
top
going
of it.
over the top. There's so
And
much
yet,
going to be added.
I think that's part of the depth that comes
It is
across
part of the
in your
depth,
paintings.
and it's that place of play that I'm in. I'm free. A lot of times I have a brush that's way past being worn out and a spray bottle. And that's where I'm at. And I'm having fun, like being back in kindergarten, right?
Right.
But it's all those imperfections. One of the most beautiful things I've ever had told to me, and it was of the unicorn, was that it was a child's creativity with adult hands.
I've heard that too, and I love that.
I do too.
Yeah.
So the adult hands are the skill. They are what we learn, what we develop, what we master, and trying to retain those childhood ideas and creativity is where I believe the best art comes from.
Yeah. I saw a Tim Burton quote this week that was something about accessing your childhood. I am butchering it. As an artist, and I've been really drawn to like home housing imagery recently, and I was thinking about how it's almost for me like a interpretation or a recreation of my childhood and making it feel like a happy home. And so that's interesting, because I do feel watching my own kids grow up, even really good childhoods, I feel like it's traumatic to be a child.
Oh, I guarantee
because
it is. Yeah.
everyone, you're not in charge and you're not in control, and we're neurodiverse.
And you're trying to make sense of it all.
Right. With limited information. Our house is very neurodivergent, so we try and give as much control to the kids as possible, but they don't. I mean, one of our kids told us we were embarrassing him at the library yesterday. That was the first. He's 14, he'll be 15 in a month, and that was the first we heard of it. And Mr. Danger was showing him a book, and apparently that was very embarrassing. But I do think about like They don't get to choose where they live. They don't get to choose who their parents are. They don't get to choose, we had input when we bought this house from them, but they don't get to pick this house. And
No, they're just along for the ride.
They're along for the ride with limited awareness and skills. Then I think you spend a lifetime unprocessing or processing. So childhood where you don't pick the stores your parents shop at, and you don't pick your house, and there's so much, that here we try and let them control when they're doing homework. We homeschool, so when do you want to get it done? How many do you want to get done a day? But there's so much bigger picture stuff that, where we live in the world, and that so then we spend a lifetime processing, unraveling, seeing what those early years did to us, for us.
Right.
When we, come into the world and make our own decisions, and we have such a limited skill set to process those things. We're starting to show the kids, we're fairly protective of our kids, but also with the neurodiversity, we've had to be really careful about what we show them, because there's echolalia, butchering that too, is about repeating. Kids on the autism spectrum will get on a word and repeat. And so with that awareness, and our son's not too bad about it, but he will hook on to things and he'll like the sound and say
I'm
it
very
over.
similar.
So we've been really careful about movies with, that one-liner they're going to get out of there. And so we've been opening up what they watch, and now I can't remember why I'm telling you this. Yep. Oh, so much of the movie will just whoop right over their head, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, I've been on my own reality of discovering my own neurodivergence, so I can relate very much to that. I think the one thing about childhood that there's been a few things that have happened in the past couple weeks, but yesterday I had stumbled upon something where they were talking about this, and they said that, and I do believe this, is that as much shadow and darkness that we had to deal with as kids, without the shadow and darkness, the light doesn't come.
I agree.
So
I feel like I'm in, and I want to make sure, like, we were reviewing some of the podcast footage, that nothing sounds like I can't do it because of something.
Right.
But there's so much, I had a very critical mom that's led to that critical I in myself. And I'm in a place that I like, and I've had a wonderful life of exploring all kinds of creativity and, making that possible. And I grew up, in a creative home. Like, it's both. It's not, yes, she was critical, and I've had to work on the self-talk of myself.
Right.
But also that criticism made me a better person, right? It's both.
yeah, I'm a big overachiever because of that.
Yep.
And that is, whether it's negative or positive or however you want to view it, that is also something that my daughter is a high overachiever.
Yeah. We're seeing it with our kids,
and now
too.
But now I can look back and recognize, like, oh, this is family stuff that I'm handing down. Of this is how you prove your worth. This is how you prove your value.
Right. Those stories are strong.
Yeah, they're strong, and they do penetrate through. But I also believe I am a cycle breaker. That a lot of the other stuff did not come with it.
Yeah.
So that was good. But that's the one thing I know about childhood. Having conversations with my daughter that are open and honest is like, in her mind, the worst thing that ever happened was I poured a can of root beer on her head one time. and that was just me. I'd had enough. I didn't know what to do with the frustration, and I just, and it's funny because that's not even a blip in my radar.
Yeah, it's not
afterwards.
Funny.
It wasn't a point to remember in time. But for her, she hates the smell of root beer to this day. So I traumatized her against root beer.
With root beer. Well, it's got a lot of sugar in it. So.
Right. I think, like, for me being a parent, I just moved forward with the idea of that all I have to do is be better than my parents.
I think, did we talk about the, like, mine's how you make them feel? And that, like, that's as a whole with everyone, not
Yep.
just my kids. So
Yeah, and just remember, we're all human. We're all just doing the best we can.
right, because it's that whole fact that, you know, with my mom passing, it's that thought of, she was 75 when she died. I moved out when I was about 19, 20. So there was 55 years that I just didn't live with her on a daily basis. And that dynamic within families, that you have each individual person, and it's then that coming together. It's no wonder we have trauma even in wonderful childhoods, because it's hard to see your parent as anything but a parent.
Right.
And I think that with my kids a lot, like, I have my own whole life and personality and all that, and they see mom.
Right.
They see that one component, and they don't see the rest of it.
A label.
It's a label. And
Right.
then, you know, within society, moms are supposed to act a certain way, dads are supposed to act a certain
Right.
way. And yeah, it's interesting. But I think, you know, now we're into, you know, family dynamics. But I do think it impacts our work so
Well, it definitely
much. I know
impacts our
for
work,
me.
without a doubt. I mean, my work was very secretive as far as painting and drawing were concerned.
Well, I know you still don't you wouldn't be on camera painting. That would make you
No,
feel
it's
uncomfortable.
not my thing. I don't even know if I can paint with somebody else in the studio other than my wife. Even my daughter makes me nervous.
Yeah, my kids make me
But it
nervous
just,
too.
you know, so that's just who I am,
Right.
and I don't let that overwhelm me. It's just I know enough about my needs to, like, if somebody invited me to do live paint somewhere or participate in my studio, I'd just be like, no.
Yeah,
And that's nothing against them or me. It's just who I am.
right.
For me, it's art is somewhat of a very solitary endeavor, and especially my art for myself, in that most of my projects are journaling. They're expressing myself in ways that I can't any other way.
Right.
So to tell somebody how to do something or how to help or to teach a class is very difficult for me, because I'm in the zone. I don't want to talk to anybody.
Well, and then, like, for me, as solitary as I am, and I need a lot of quiet time, and the studio definitely creates that and a reason to escape. I love sharing creativity with other people, and that's one of those things I've really enjoyed teaching, even though I wouldn't normally want to stand up in front of people and tell them what to do. That's not really who I am.
Right.
But I just love sharing, because I know how wonderful creativity makes me feel. So to be able to share that on any level with other people has been wonderful for
Absolutely.
me. So
Yeah, and I mean, I'm always continually in search of projects where I can not only help somebody else win, but I can win.
right. Right. Well, I mean, I think that's what we're hoping for the podcast, is to help others win too, and I think it's easy for me to feel crazy as an artist alone in my
Right.
studio. That's
Right.
how our weekly coffees started. And so I think just talking about these things, that communication, like,
Right.
if somebody asks me questions at a market, I'm always happy to share, because I think it's so easy to feel the imposter syndrome and all of those key, whatever popular talking points, that if we can communicate as artists and let each other know we're not crazy and we're
Right.
not alone,
Right.
I think that's really important.
Right.
And I just, for me, I know creativity is just in my blood. Like, it's just
Yeah, I can't
something I have
stop
to do.
creating. Like,
No, I meant like 10 baby quilts. I'm like, what am I going to do with these?
right.
But yeah,
Right.
it's almost a compulsion, really. So
yeah. No, I believe it is a compulsion. I believe it can be viewed as an addiction. I'm starting to look at my art differently, in that it's one thing to say I just want to be in my studio and do art all the time, but I'm also understanding, like, I can use it for a distraction to get out of life too.
yeah, my
So-
house isn't very clean. So.
Right. If there's stuff that's being, like, and yesterday is a good example of, I spent the entire day out in the yard cleaning up the farm, cleaning up branches, burning everything, planting in the garden, and just spent time in nature. And for the first 2-3 hours, I just want to be in the studio.
That's a huge thing for me. I
Right.
know.
So I think what's interesting goes back to our original discussion about the middle, right? Is I think artists talk about these middle areas of our projects, but I think the middle is in life too.
Yeah, I agree.
And it wasn't until I finally seen a gardener snake, I think it was, and then I found another gardener snake, and then I seen 3 frogs, and then it became more of a quest, right? It becomes more of just being out in nature and enjoying it for whatever it is.
Yeah.
And pretty much by the end of the day, I was like the best snail extractor from the garden you've ever seen.
That's funny.
But I mean, at some point you have to embrace it, but I also know myself well enough to know that the boredom will stop me from embracing something. So that's where my creativity can come in. I can start
Right.
having fun with it.
Right.
Realizing like, is there anything better to actually do than play in the garden?
Right.
I don't know if there is.
I'm with you. Yeah, we have some cleanup we're going to start on, and it's that time of year here.
Yep.
So I was like, got to get more strawberries out this year, and I was checking on my blueberry plants, and yeah, I have a definite, that slow stitch too. I'm like looking forward to some handwork projects so I can be creative and outside, which really sounds lovely. So yeah, I think all of these conversations we've had over the years that we talk about even within our local art community, and then we're having here, it's not just about the creativity. It's really easy to focus on that, and I think that's what drew us together. That's what draws our art group together. But it's just conversations on life, you know? We're just all humans trying to figure it out.
I think it's choosing a lifestyle that works for you individually.
Yeah.
And I'm well aware at this point, like, I am going to be the villain of some people's stories.
Yeah, we were just talking about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, not that I want to be, and I can accept that I'm going to be.
Right.
It's
Not
kind of
everyone will agree with us.
Yeah, it's kind of Mel Robbins, let them.
Yeah, that's been that's a big one in our house. Between the boys, it's like one will come down and be like, he did this, and we're like, let him be wrong. Let him, let them. It's your choice how you
And what's
respond.
funny about that statement of let them is originally I didn't like it. I thought it was a very negative thing until I heard the other side of it, which was let them and then let me.
Right.
And embracing that let me released all the shame and guilt.
Right.
Like, that's how they're going to be. This is how I'm going to do it.
I think it's so easy right now with how impactful social media is, and everything's just that soundbite. I remember that one politician, I can't remember, and he said that one word or something, and they repeated, I'm off with my data, but they repeated him like 500 times between that night and the next morning. And I think it's so easy to hear let them and then just dismiss it because everything's that, how quick can I get your attention? And you know, I have a hard time like on Instagram because everything's jumping off at my face, and it's really easy to hear that one side. And I think it's these deeper conversations that are so important, because it's easy to take anything we've said today and take a little snippet and make it sound different, right?
Yeah, I think it's important that if you're going to let them, you need to know how are you going to move forward.
Right. That's always, I like Mel Robbins too, and I think it's Byron Katie that was the one where it's like people are going to show up how they show up, and then I get to either feel pulled towards that or pushed away from it, and I get to make my choice based on that and how I'm going to show up. But you can't control other people.
No, you can't. And I think that's an important thing is like knowing when I resonate with people and when I don't resonate with people, and it's okay that I don't resonate with them.
Right.
And I don't need to be everybody's friend. It's just the way it is.
Right.
I mean, I want to make art. I only have limited slots on the scorecard, right?
I do find that as an introvert, it can be really difficult because I want to do things with people and be everybody's friend and make everyone happy, but there's a lot of that, what do they call it, like the internal bank, you have to fill up your own bank account or whatever, energy levels and that kind of thing, that I just need a lot of alone time to create. And it's been a difficult balance in my life for that, especially with the kids here now, because they take so much of my social energy, and it's different than with friends and groups.
But it still affects it.
It still affects it, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, my circle's probably smaller than it's ever been.
Yeah.
And I'm actually digging it.
Yeah.
It's what I can handle.
Right. Yeah, I think it's, again, choice.
I mean, I'm that personality that wants to save everybody and fix everybody.
But that takes a lot of energy.
It takes a tremendous amount of energy.
I've been thinking that a lot the last couple weeks about how it takes a lot of energy for me to show up as myself and show up and create in that high execution level. And I don't think I give myself as much downtime as I probably need to.
Right.
So like last night, here's a win. I sat and quilted that quilt until I had that giant knot, and it was like my whole right side, I could feel it. And I have this baby quilt in the house I'm working on, and I'm hand quilting it, and I have been for over a week, like a week and a half. And at this point, I just want to be done. And so normally I would just pick it up and like I went in and ate dinner, and then but I didn't last night. I was like, you know what, you already hurt your neck. Just don't work on it. So.
Yeah, I didn't. I am usually in the studio in the evenings after dinner, and last night I was not. Just working outside, I'm like, nope, I'm just going to chill.
Yeah. But I think it's important to say, it's easy to be like, oh, I never. But then to identify when you are making choices like that, I think it's important.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fighting in my head all the time this idea that I have brilliant ideas that all need to be executed right now, that I'm running out of time because of my age. I'm in survival mode because that's how I was raised up, and that's what my nervous system is.
I think that's a lot of society right now.
Yeah, it's all of that, and this desire just to be happy all at the same time. All those are, and multitude of more are just running all the time within me. So, there are times that I have to like check in with myself and be like, where's the bear that's going to eat me today? Why am I so wound up? Why is everything so impactful?
Yes. Kind of that talking down anxiety.
Yeah, and like sometimes I can answer that and sometimes I can't. And I think over the past year in particular, I've gotten really good at just understanding that, maybe this is just an internal dysfunction going on. And that it's not actually being driven by my mind. It's just a response that my body's having to whatever external or internal things are going on. And I've actually gotten pretty good at just sitting through those events and experiencing them for what they are. And I'm kind of at the point to where I'm experiencing them, but they're not slowing me down.
I think along those same lines, the one I'm having to work on is I have like an unspoken expectation that I'm happy all the time, or I'm feeling joyful or peaceful or whatever you want to say for I'm positive. I feel good all the time. And, I think it's the Lego movie too. Do you love that I'm jumping from Tim Burton to for quoting? But there's the song in it, and it's being... because it's everything is awesome is in the first movie, and in the second one it's everything can't be awesome all the time. That's an unrealistic expectation because it's still life, and there's death and destruction. And we saw a bird this week fly into one of our windows, and it died, and it was awful. It hit the window so hard it just fell to the ground, and that was it. And yet that's part of life. And so to think I'm going to be happy and positive all the time, I'm so happy outside sitting there in the sunshine, and it's been so beautiful out for the most part. And then to experience the bird at the same time, it's those two truths, right?
Yeah.
And that's ultimately what life is.
That's what life is.
The both.
Yeah, I think as humans, we should just allow ourselves to experience those truths for whatever they are in those moments.
I work hard on... if I do feel negative, it's like, this is here for a reason. This is here to drive you to the next thing that you're doing. And this is how you make the choice that this isn't working. Or it is working, and then accept that that's how you feel, right?
Yeah, and I think for myself, as younger, I didn't understand what emotions were at all. They weren't in alignment the way they are now.
Yeah.
So for me, like, just to move through life and understand that I don't need to worry about what emotion I'm going through as long as I can stay out of the secondary emotions. the angers,
that it doesn't trigger
the
something
being
else.
mad, all of those stuff are kind of secondary of whatever's going on in me.
Well, and even when they come up, just, hello, anger, I
Right.
see you there, you're welcome.
Right.
I'm not going to fight you, and I'm also not going to act on it.
And we're not going to choose to show up for this battle.
Right. You're allowed to hang
Right.
out in the back seat, but I'm driving,
Right.
not you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the things that keeps my, if I am frustrated and I know that I'm like one trigger away, the best question I've ever found to ask myself is, would you crawl naked over broken glass to prove this?
I think of that frequently, especially having
Right.
the 14, almost 15-year-old and the just turned 12-year-old at home. Like, there are some battles, man. We have a broken salad spinner because the dishwasher is really upsetting.
Right.
So, and I
Right.
think about that. I think about,
Right.
gonna crawl naked over
Is it worth
broken
it?
glass for
I don't
this?
know if it is worth it all the time.
Yeah, I think it's just that reframing, it's everything at this point with the self-doubt. I say, hey, in the back seat, you can ride along and I will listen, but that doesn't mean you're driving.
Right,
I'm
right.
still driving.
Right.
So, it's very complicated to be a human, isn't it?
It's very complicated. And it's just the experience for what it is.
Earth school, as Byron Katie says, and I love that. We're in Earth school.
Yeah, it's just an experience in this moment in time, and it's similar to the podcast, right? You and me, I know I'm still nervous coming into these, but I know we were I was more nervous at the beginning, and the more we do this, the more I'm getting more comfortable.
Yeah.
It's becoming easier. It's flowing, and I expect,
practice.
yeah, and I expect it is a skill set that is going to be a win for myself and yourself and our photographer James.
I already see it as a win. I know you've had people reach out and they're connecting, and I've had a bunch of people reach out and they're connecting. And if we can connect with just a couple people, like this is our third one. So we've got, we're committed here. So we're only going to connect with more people. And I think with my mom passing, that's the biggest thing that I see at this point. Is it's hard for me because I want to be in creating and I need that recharge of my batteries, but connection within the human experience is, I think, the most important thing at this point, at least for me in my life. That's the most important. So I love that we're connecting.
I do too.
So should we wrap this one?
I think we should wrap
Yeah,
it.
okay. I remembered what I couldn't remember earlier. So your connect with Tom outside of this, you have
TomFerryStudio.com for the website, and I suppose that would give them everything. It's Tom Ferry Studio or Tom Ferry Studio on Instagram, Facebook, all of that.
Yeah. And then I'm RebeccaDanger.com. I'm on Instagram as Rebecca Danger. I started posting on Facebook this week. Did you see that?
I have seen that.
Jackie commented
Well,
on
I
something.
friended you over like a year ago.
Oh, I know. Yeah, that tells I'm not on there.
I know.
I'm showing up. I'm doing it.
You're doing it. We're both doing it.
Well, Facebook specifically. And then the one thing I wanted to say is, if you have questions that you want answered, things that you want Tom and I to talk
You want
about,
our opinion on?
opinions, whatever, you can you leave comments or you can email us. It's myartismyvoicepodcast@gmail.com. And we're happy to talk about anything that comes up in the artist experience and, life as a whole. Maybe not like, if it's like, where do babies come from? Or answering that right from the Teen Titans. Probably haven't seen that.
Probably haven't seen that.
But yeah, I think if you have questions, anything, topics you want us to talk about.
I think most artists are very isolated, so let's have the conversations that need to be had and move forward in a way that's productive for all.
Yeah, everybody wins is what we're into. So, all right, so I guess that's it for this week, and we'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.